Pretty cool news with Ethereum recently is the amount of Ethereum wallets that are holding over 1,000 tokens has recently increased by almost 400 additional wallets compared to where it was at. I currently own 0 Ethereum. I own a lot of other stuff. Not really financial advice. I'm certainly not advising that you buy over 1,000 Ethereum tokens, since it's pretty expensive. They're probably like institutional investors. Pretty cool to see institutional investors putting their money behind cryptocurrencies like this. Now that I want institutions to be owning such a large amount of them compared to average regular day person, especially when you're talking about proof of stake cryptocurrencies such as Cardano, where the more stake you have in it, the more voting power you have, and you don't really want these institutional investors to be having the majority of the voting power for blockchain technologies. We'd rather have that fairly spread out so that you don't have it becoming more centralized, which is weird to say since these are decentralized technologies. But as institutional investors come in, that motivates these wishy-washy regulators so that they can define these regulations that are understandable and on the books so that people can follow them, rather than having all these regulations that might apply, might not apply. You want that to be defined. How much regulation is a different story. What's important is that you actually have defined regulation, and then you can start arguing about if it's too much or too little. But having these institutional investors put their money into it gives that motivation to the regulators, or maybe gives that motivation to push to have well-defined regulation. Not that the regulation they're trying to apply isn't well-defined, it's just not well-defined that it should apply to cryptocurrencies. The definition needs to be about what should apply in regard to cryptocurrencies, whether that be creating a new regulator or repurposing an existing regulator and having legislation around what they should be regulating and how they should be regulating it in regard to cryptocurrencies, in which that might come through the legislature at Congress and Senate. It could also come through court cases to see how lawsuits such as the SEC v. Ripple, things like that, how they work out. And then you have that legal precedent going forward that these cryptocurrency companies can follow so that they know that they're not going to be sued. If there's a risk that they're going to be sued, then there's this stigma about investing in them, which this recent news for Ethereum shows that even though there's some stigma, people are still investing, but it's got to be taking a toll on the amount that could potentially be invested in them if there wasn't this stigma and there wasn't this confusion with the regulators. So I think overall, good news. Maybe it's like a circular sort of reasoning behind wanting the institutional investors to invest so that them and other lobbyists can push to have better defined regulation versus having better defined regulation, which will incentivize institutional investors or make institutional investors feel safer. It's good to see this entry point where there are those investors having those wallets that have over 1,000 Ethereum. Once that's there, it doesn't matter where it starts, if it starts with the regulators or with the investors who will push the regulators. As long as it starts somewhere, that's good.